Today we are going to be working with clay, and the clay project that we're going to use today is a coil pot. So the technique that we're going to use is a coil, and we're going to make a coil beehive. So we're going to take and coil, and then add some little bees on the outside of our beehive. What we want to make sure that we do today is we want to make sure we scratch attach so that these little things don't fall off once they dry, because they really like to fall off. Also, if the clay gets too dry and it's starting to break on us, that's when we want to stop playing with it, and we want to make sure it's attached to our beehives. So let me move my camera and I'll show you how to get started. All right, folks, so we're going to get some clay today, and we're also going to get a toothpick tool so that we can make sure that we scratch attach. Once you get your clay, the first thing I want you to do is roll it out. So when you're rolling out the clay, make sure you're using the back side of the mat. The shiny side, it's not going to grab enough. So we want to make sure we're on the back side of the mat, and we're going to roll. Remember, we're using fingertips to the palm of our hand. So I'm using my whole hand to roll. If it gets too big, I can put two hands on there and I can roll and spread out these coils. So we want to roll. Now, thickness. We want about as thick as our pinky. If it gets any smaller, if it's too little teeny tiny, if it's very teeny tiny like this compared to this, we can't use these. It's going to fall apart. So if it's as small as spaghetti, just put it off on the side. We'll have to do something else with that. Maybe we can make our bees from that. So either you're going to have a big coil or you might have a couple smaller coils. I'm going to just roll out one more coil so that I have them all ready. Remember, when you're rolling, roll up and down. If you're just rolling in one spot like this, you're going to have something that's very, very flat. You're not going to have a coil. The coil is like a hose. It's rounded. So we want to roll. We want to make sure that we're rolling back and forth. Roll. Now, once we have our coils, then we can get started. Last year, you did the nest. So we started way at the bottom and then we worked up. This time we actually are going to have something that's a little bit more open inside. So to get started with this, we have to start with a circle, and then as we move up and up and up, that's where we have to scratch attach. So remember, scratch attach looks like this, where we take our tool and we scratch right across. This way it will stick. So I like to start off that way. In fact, I'm going to go through and I'm going to scratch all my coils so that they're ready and I don't forget. Because once I get working sometimes, I forget that I need to keep going through and scratching. So I'm going to scratch attach all of these to get started. Now, once they are scratch attached, once all of them are scratched, now we can work on the attaching part. So what I want to do for my beehive is I want to start off with a circle. So to start off with a circle means I need to make the number 9. I take and I'm going to weld this clay together. That means to join. So to weld means to join two pieces together. So I'm going to smooth that out so that it's all together. That way I have my number 9. You can even think of it as a lasso going around and around. Then I take this tail and I go right on top, and I'm going to push it down a tiny little bit. So that's my first part of my first coil. Next, I'm going to take my next coil. I'm going to go right on top, right where it ended. I squish it down and I go around, and I'm going to go around, and this one goes right over it, so I'm going to go right on top. What I'm trying to do, instead of making a cup where it's the same all the way up, I'm actually trying to shrink it into the top so that it gets smaller and smaller. So every time I put this on there, I'm going in a little tiny bit so that I can get through there. If when you're working a coil breaks, like this one just broke on me, not a big deal. Just slide it over a little bit, stick it back together, and keep going and going. Eventually, you're going to see that you get right up to the top, and that's where we want to just swirl it right around and pinch it off. That way we have our coil. Now what I like to do too is I like to hold it in my hand and I just like to pinch it a tiny little bit. I remember, not a squeeze, a pinch. This way all my coils get stuck together and they don't fall apart. It just helps with the welding of the clay. Now once that's done, we can start talking about how do we make a bee. So I have a little bit of coil left, so I'm going to take and I'll make 3 little bees here. So I just pinch off a little piece of clay. I roll it on one side. So I'm just rolling it back and forth, back and forth. That will give me kind of the pointy end. And then for the front of my bee, I'm going to take and I'm actually going to squeeze my fingers together. I know we said don't squeeze on these, but this is okay because we need the wings. So I'm going to squeeze, squeeze. This way I have my bee wings. I can take my scratch tool and I can go in and I can go in and I can make little eyes. Maybe I make a little smile, and that way I have my first little bee. Then I need to scratch, and then where it's going to attach, I need to scratch. So scratch for attach. I put it down, I wiggle it so that it's on the beehive and it's right there, right up on top. And that way it's not going to fall off. So if you're not scratch attaching, there's a good chance once it dries, it's going to fall off. So you want to make sure it's really in there. So my next one, I just wiggle it back and forth. I get the pointy end. I can make the face once I'm done with the wings. So I'm just trying to get a little bit of clay kind of balled up in there. And then I'm going to take 2 fingers and I'm just going to go pinch, pinch like a crab. So pinch, pinch. I have my wings. I can add my eyes. I can add my mouth. And then I scratch underneath. Scratch. That way I can scratch attach. So I scratch and I attach. Let's try that one more time just so you can see. So I wiggle at the end. That's the pointy end. And then, like a crab, I'm going to pinch, pinch. That way I get my wings. Add in my eyes, my mouth, and then I scratch, 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 and then I'm going to add that to here. Now, if I just set that on there, that when it dries, it's going to fall off. Because if you notice, I did not scratch attach. You have to scratch attach each one. So scratch, and that way the scratch attach will go right on there. And then that way I will have all my bees just sitting on my beehive. Now, when we're done, set that down on your tray. I'll come around and collect those, and then I will give you a wash bin that has washcloths in there. Please use the one that I give you. Let's save the other one for the other person. Wipe your hands really good with the washcloth. So try to get all that clay off. Don't worry about cleaning the mat. Now, once that's done, and once your hands are clean, put that inside there. I'll come around and I will collect those, and I will call my quietly sitting tables to line up to go. So once you're cleaned up, sit down quietly in your seats, and then we'll get ready to go. Thank you.